Exorcism is the religious or spiritual practice of evicting or expelling demons, jinns, or other spiritual entities from a person that is believed to be possessed. Depending on the spiritual beliefs of the exorcist, this may be done by causing the entity to swear an oath, performing an elaborate ritual, or simply by commanding it to depart, in the name of a higher power. The practice is ancient, and it is part of the belief system of many cultures and religions. Exorcisms are divided into two kinds or forms. The first kind is the simple, or minor forms of exorcism, which is further divided into two. First, for those preparing for baptism, rite of baptism for children, and the rite of Christian initiation of adults. Secondly, the appendix of exorcisms and related supplications, that includes a series of prayers, which may be used by the faithful. The second kind of exorcism is the solemn or major exorcism, which is a rite that can only be performed by a bishop or by a priest, with the special and express permission of the local ordinary. This form is directed at the expulsion of demons, or to the liberation from demonic possession. Anna Elisabeth Anneliese Michel was a German woman who underwent 67 Catholic exorcism rites, during the year before her death. She died of malnutrition, for which her parents and priests were convicted of negligent homicide. She was diagnosed with epileptic psychosis, and had a history of psychiatric treatment. In 1973, she started to lose her grip on reality and became suicidal, refused to touch religious artifacts, and even began to hear voices. Anneliese underwent roughly 70 exorcisms over 10 months, ultimately dying in 1976, after almost a year of exorcism rites-based starvation. She was believed to have been possessed by approximately 6 demons, one of whom was said to have been Hitler. Anna Eckland began displaying signs of demonic possession at the age of 14. While she was raised a devout Catholic, her father Jacob, and Aunt Mina, practiced witchcraft, cursing the girl daily and using herbs to taint her food. Eventually, the curses began to take hold of her. She became physically unable to enter churches, and grew highly averse to religious artifacts. After a supposedly successful exorcism in 1912, it is said that Eckland's father and aunt prayed to Satan for her continued suffering. Within a year, she became possessed by multiple demons and entities, the very spirits who were believed to have possessed Anneliese Michel. In 1928, she was placed in a convent, and her behavior drastically became worse. Anna would often throw her food on the floor, sensing that it had been blessed by the nuns who were cared for her. She was also seen levitating, vomiting in the presence of priests, and speaking foreign languages fluently, despite never having heard them before. After 23 days of suffering and 3 exorcisms, she was finally declared free from the demonic entities who had possessed her. Her final exorcism took place when she was 46. In May 2013, the newly elected Pope Francis performed a short exorcism on a boy, whose identity remains guarded. While performing blessings in St. Peter's Square after the Mass of Pentecost, Pope Francis stopped in front of a boy in a wheelchair. After the pontiff grasped by the boy's head, the boy gasped and went limp. Caught on video, the moment went viral, and the recording was later analyzed by a team of exorcists, who stated that it was an authentic, bona fide exorcism. It was said that in 1906, 16-year-old Clara Germana Cele, a Christian student, made a pact with Satan. Days after making this pact, she began to experience the typical signs of demonic possession. She grew physically repulsed by the sight of religious artifacts, soon developed violent convulsions, spoken languages she had never studied, had superhuman strength, and even knew information about her caretakers that was impossible to explain. 2 priests attempted to perform an exorcism on her, one of whom she killed by strangulation. During her exorcisms, her skin boiled when holy water touched it, and she levitated in front of 170 people. A toxic stink left her body and she was considered free of demons. In 1974, West Yorkshire butcher Michael Taylor started freaking his local Christian fellowship group with his erratic behavior. When he admitted he felt evil inside of him, the local vicar called in ministers to cast the demons out. In an all-night ceremony, the exorcist cast out at least 40 demons. Despite the unshakable feeling that 3 demons were still inside Michael, they sent him home. 2 hours later, he murdered his wife in a fit of what the neighbors described as laughter and joy. He tore her eyes and tongue out, then strangled the family poodle. Then he took to the streets, completely naked and covered in blood, shouting, "It is the blood of Satan," repeatedly. This case follows the story of a transgender woman, known as Richard/Rita, who was possessed by a demon known as Girl Fixer. Richard/Rita doubled up, his head resting on his feet, his body pumping spasmodically. The assistants held him and tried to straighten him out. They could not move him, he was as heavy as pig iron. The couch shook and trembled. The wallpaper above the bed peeled off, starting in one corner, as if invisible fingers had yanked it violently. The shutters shook and rattled. He started to break wind, and scream at the same time. The story is documented in ex-priest Malachi Martin's book, Hostage to the Devil. In it, the exorcist also details the 4 stages of possession, as well as his experiences of violent exorcisms. One of America's most notorious serial killers, claimed to have been possessed during a spree, David Berkowitz, blamed the demons for the murder of 6 New York City residents. In the year between 1976 and 1977, he would terrorize the residents of the city's 5 boroughs, murdering 6 and wounding 7, a violent spree he attributed to Papa Sam, a mysterious and evil figure. After his capture, it was revealed that Sam was the dog of his neighbor, Sam Carr. Berkowitz claimed in his prison diaries that the animal was possessed by a 6,000-year-old man named Sam, an alcoholic who consumed human blood. He also claimed that the spirit locked him in the attic, and commanded him to kill, through the dog. Although Berkowitz has gone back and forth, sometimes sticking with the possession story, sometimes recanting it, he, to this day, believes that his crimes were part of an epic struggle between God and the devil. In 2008, a board-certified psychiatrist and teacher, at both Columbia University and New York Medical College, Richard Gallagher, declared that his patient, known only as Julia, had experienced possession. Described as a charming and engaging woman, Julia was the queen of a satanic cult. After feeling convinced she was being attacked by a demon, Julia reached out to a local priest who, in turn, reached out to Gallagher, to put the woman through psychiatric treatment. But Gallagher ruled out mental illness, after seeing his patient enter trance-like states, and finding items flying off the shelves in his office. Julia spoke in tongues, and shared details about his life that she couldn't know. During a phone call with Julia's priest, Gallagher heard one of the demonic voices, that had come from Julia's mouth, except she was nowhere near a phone. She was eventually exorcised, a process during which she allegedly spewed threats, levitated, exhibited super strength, and changed the temperature of the room. adapted for the big screen, into the hugely successful Hollywood horror hit, The Conjuring. This possession is the epitome of a real-life horror story. Soon after the Perron family moved into their dream house, in a quaint Rhode Island neighborhood in 1970, the haunting began. The large family immediately began to experience odd and terrifying happenings, from some things as small as odd sounds, to those as terrifying as family members being pulled from their beds. On a number of occasions, the ghost of a woman who hanged herself on the property appeared. She particularly abhorred the Perron matriarch, harassing and eventually possessing her. The paranormal investigative duo, Ed and Lorraine Warren, were brought in, and after evaluating the Perron situation, declared that there had been quite a few insidious things that occurred in the home, and around the property that cast a dark cloud over the entire place. Attempts to exorcise the malevolent spirit from the home failed, and the family endured its torment until 1980, when they fled to Georgia. Roland Doe's Exorcism was one of the most famous exorcisms ever performed, eventually transformed into the Hollywood box office hit, The Exorcist. To protect the 14-year-old boy's identity, the priests involved in his exorcism referred to him by the pseudonym, Roland Doe. In preparation for her imminent death, Roland's Aunt Tilly encouraged him to contact her using a Ouija board. After her death, he followed this advice, opening a door to the world of the living for demons who eventually possessed him. During his possession, it is said that numerous religious artifacts flew off the walls, often accompanied by unexplained noises, heavy footsteps, and disconcerting sounds of scratching. Eventually, the possession became so severe, that the boy's speech began to change. From his mouth, came the language of tongues spoken in gritty, guttural voice, quite unlike anything Roland had uttered before. He levitated in the air, writhing while steep scratches, words and claw marks appeared on the boy's skin. We do need to be aware of the devil's influence and plans in this world, however, we can rest in the promise we have, that Jesus is ultimately more powerful than the devil, and will secure a final victory over him for all God's people. Remember, Jesus has ultimate authority and power over all creation, including the devil, and all his minions.